Board is good.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, sweet. Just share the link. What's up, everyone? Let's Jacob, I want to welcome into the little bonus portion. I want to talk a little bit of
we're
trash.
Already live. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
This is where
I didn't even know. I had tapped out, and 10 seconds later, we are live.
I want to talk a little trash this week. We have a pretty heavy matchup in the league where we all met. Me, you, Tom Lee, Billy, etc. in the Foot Clan Dynasty League. The Foot Clan Fantasyland Dynasty League is what it's called. We have a hell of a matchup. Now look,
Fatnessy, technically, it was misspelled and it's never been rectified, so it is the Fatnessy League.
No, it's fantasy. It is fantasy now.
Oh, did he change it?
Yeah,
he changed it after 3 years.
Changed it. Yeah,
I'm gonna protest.
Yeah, you should.
I'm gonna. I'll consider leaving the league. I was only ever in the Fantasy League.
I didn't sign up for the Fantasy League.
Name changes need to go through approval processes like rule changes. Let's talk about this matchup. See, for whatever reason this year, all of the stars have aligned when I play you. I think I'm like 33-2. It feels like.
Yeah, it feels like the W's are hard to come by. It's like, even in the leagues where I have like sick teams, like the Fantasy League. Yeah, I was like not even close.
Yeah, so I'm the underdog by 20 points here. You and I made a pretty big trade earlier in the year. It was much maligned. At Cam's Not Sober, let me have the business on it, etc. Telling me how bad that Kamara deal looks for me now. It's looking kind of good at this point. Kamara had the one blow-up game, and he's been meh. We got Cousins, Henry, Eckler, Tyreek. Chase is coming back. That's a huge lineup. And on your end, Taylor, McCaffrey, Diggs, AJ Brown, Jefferson, Allen. Your team is fucking sick.
This is my best team. For people not listening, like I wish I could say that all my teams look like this. They definitely don't. But no, this is legit my best team. It's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, Garrett Wilson, and other flex person who's like the clown person in the invading.
It's a gauntlet. It's a fucking gauntlet. But if I beat you, I could knock you out of bye week contention. Mine's locked in. I'm somehow 11-1 in this team, even though I've been without Chase. Like half this is a huge week. And honestly, if your team is aptly named the Bridesmaids, and to me, I find that hilarious. So this could be it. This is a huge week. Billy, what's your biggest week looking like?
I gotta hand it to my work league. Last year, this league was absolutely nothing. If y'all remember, we were laughing on stream about me starting a 6-person league just because I wanted to.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a fantasy league in my work league. All of a sudden, this year, everyone is hyper competitive. We have like an even spread. All the playoff teams are decided right now, and everyone is fighting for like the top 2 seeds. Yeah, like it's so much fun to have seen these guys who a lot of them like didn't set their lineups last year. Now all of a sudden like come around, they're like, oh, we're gonna kick your ass. So this week I have a matchup. So I'm currently the 3 seed. Top 2 seeds get a bye, and I'm playing a guy whose team is absolutely like ludicrously stacked, but he's saying it's 6 right now. Most points scorer in the league, just bad luck. And I'm like, I need to win this fucking matchup to clinch my bye.
Well, and not only that, but you knocked the best team out.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you don't want to see that guy in the playoffs.
No, I don't. But that, as much as I want to like put it on a lot of my leagues, because of the way I built a lot of stuff, I'm either a top tier contender and I'm already in the playoffs, or I'm pure rebuild and I don't care about the league right now. So like this league where I still like look face to face at everyone from the league every week, that helps a lot.
I just want to point out too that there were some crushing losses this week. So in the full Tilt Dynasty Invitational, I played co-host at the Fantasy Walkabout, Tom Lee. I needed to win this matchup to have any hope of getting a bye. I needed this. I had Josh motherfucking Jacobs. And by the end of the week Sunday, I was like, I have this locked. It's done. He needs 32 from Jalen Hurts in this game.
Oh, wow.
To beat me.
Wait.
Jalen Hurts had 34 points and he beat me by 3.02 points in this game.
This is wild. I had the exact same thing happen to me. Literally those same two players. If people know Mike at Dynasty Zoltan, I was playing him in a league, and I had Josh Jacobs, and I pulled ahead, and he had Jalen Hurts, and he ended up beating me by 4. That's wild.
Yeah, it's just like I was watching it count away, and I'm looking. I was like, this should be a good. He's not going to throw it for a ton of yards in this game. Whatever, 100 rushing yards in the first quarter. I was just like, fuck right off. Like, it was an absolutely crushing loss that knocked me out of a bye. My favorite time of the year is like right now, actually, like, do I have a bye? Where's the bye? And for anyone that thinks the bye is not that important, like my team is good enough, there's a reason Jacob's team is called the Bridesmaids, because the bye week can absolutely take a dominant team and crush it. You can have a Derek Carr taint game, right, in the first week of the playoffs and be screwed. You could go up against an Alvin Kamara Christmas game, right? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're just toast. It's brutal this time of year. This is the best, though. All that time, it's absolutely best. Crushing losses from this week, folks, that had real implications.
Ooh, you're gonna have to give me a second on that one.
Oh, the Jacobs one was the most tilting because I had him in. Well, I have him in a few leagues, which may surprise you. But the one league where I had him, where I really needed to win, I lose anyways, which was super frustrating. And then me and shout out to Ron Stewart, we have this FFPC team that we've been coming back from the brink. We were just getting like railroaded by some bad injury luck. T. Higgins continued leaving games in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Our own inability to make start-sit decisions that were functional. And we started off the year 1-5. And FFPC, for anyone who doesn't know, they only do a 12-week regular season. Then you have the league playoffs and you have the sprint. So we basically needed to win out. We won 5 in a row to get it to 6-5. And we needed to win this week and put up a ton of points in order to clinch the last spot. And we were projected to do it after the early games. And we were like getting so hyped that we had completed this marathon comeback. And then Josh Jacobs just ran all over our soul. And we had Adams. So it was like the worst. Like we were rooting on Adams and Jacobs is rooting against Jacobs. And the spread just went completely in the wrong direction. That was so painful.
Oh, those are not like chump change leagues either. Like those are big boy pants leagues. That's crushing. That's very crushing.
Me and Cam have a couple teams through. We'll be rooting.
Oh, here we go.
But yeah, I thought we were going to squeak in a third here with Ron, but that was not to be.
Yeah, my easiest, most crushing loss this week is from my own league, the Big Billy Invitational, the Fabled League. This league has brought out some of the dark.
Would you mind letting the listeners know who the defending champion is of that league, by the way?
Jacob is the defending champion. He rode Justin Jackson to a win there. I
sure did.
League winner by definition.
In this league, this league has brought out some of the darker portions of my soul, like the petty side of me, given what my name is in this league. Not gonna list any names, but yeah, I've been destroying this league all year, and I had to get taken down by Tom Lee by like 10 points.
Who cares? You're still first.
Because no, there was some I remember what it was.
Solidified the bye right there.
I thought Chase was going to play all week. Like I was convinced Chase was coming back. So I put him in my lineup, didn't think about it. Thursday comes, I would have played Isaiah McKenzie, who would have given me the win. And at the time, Chase was still in.
The Thursday
Chase gets ruled out. My only choice is MVS. So,
well, I'll say this for that league, for Walkabout listeners. So if there's a league that makes it seem like we know what we're talking about, honestly, the leaderboard's pretty good for us. So Billy's currently in first at 10-2. Tom Lee is at 9-3, and I'm at 9-3. And I play Tom Lee this week. So probably my 2 most important games in Dynasty Leagues this week come against Tom in the Fantasy Invitational, or the Fantasy Land, and against Tom Lee in the battle for the bye here in the Big Billy Invitational.
I have to surpass our arch nemesis this week to still be in the playoffs, and we might get it. We might get all of us in the playoffs, but it's looking bleak for me right now. our arch nemesis is he's playing Bradley, who shout out Brad, who has a good team in that league. Shout out Brad.
He's off 6 in a row. All right, should we get started on this?
Phenomenal. Now? Let's get going. That's a 10-minute bonus.
Yeah,
I think that's enough to ride. Let's get into it. I can't wait. Oh my goodness, it's Tuesday night, and again, that can only mean one damn thing. You are choosing to spend your night with us, and whenever you're listening to this, you're choosing to spend that time with us. We love you just the same, even if you're not here right with us. This is the Full Tilt Podcast Network. This is episode 184 of the network. This is the flagship program, the one and only, can't be repeated, although they've tried. This is the Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast. We do it big. We do it tilty. That's the way everyone needs it. And this is a time to tilt, a chance to reflect and look back at bad decisions, good process, bad process, and do it all the fuck over again. Can't wait. I, of course, am your host of the most timeless hands. I am Tom Stipple FF. With me, as always, is at Jakob Sanderson. And with me, as always, again, may not be the most interesting man in the world, but I can tell you he's one of the smartest men in the world.
Damn.
He's our own at Big Billy FF. I had to bring you back down a little bit.
He's smart, but he's boring as shit.
I had to bring Billy back down because I can officially announce the weekly picks have been decided with Big Billy's unbelievable week 12. He has put himself 40 points ahead of myself in second, and Jacob's coming in last. So Jacob and I are going to have to be drinking whatever Billy wants come draft day. I believe that's what we picked. I'm not looking forward to it because what Jacob put Billy through last year was brutal.
You know, Billy, Tom's the one really getting screwed here, where I like really put the screws to Billy, and now Billy's gonna have a revenge-based mindset. Tom just gets lumped in with this.
Now they're gonna be drinking room temperature milk stouts for the entire time.
That sounds
I don't even know
great.
what that is. I'm gonna make up some rule where like I get to deflect one drink to only Jacob, and like because I came in second, like I'm gonna make up the rules as we go because that's what I do.
Clearly, it's a little tyrannical.
We are sponsored by the Fantasy Points Media Group. We're going to go to Fantasy Points.
I will make my own rules.
Hey, invite me onto your podcast, play a game, and then you can make the rules, okay? And of course, we are also presented by Underdog.
Is this not my podcast?
Hey.
Yeah, we just
the
got
one
kicked
where
out,
you get to push the buttons, okay? That's what I meant, all right? Let's not get too saucy here early. We're going to get off the rails before.
Yeah, so anyway, I can push some buttons.
I'm definitely gonna like remove your privileges after. Oh my god, we're already off the fucking rails. Unbelievable. I don't think we're often on them, honestly, at this point. But look, we have a big show today. We're gonna obviously, as you saw, if you've read or if you're just jumping in, we are redrafting the 2022 rookie class, and I'm excited to do that. It's been a great year for a shit class. It's been pretty awesome, honestly, in this weird year of football. But first, as I mentioned, we are presented by Underdog Fantasy. Guys, as Billy said, we're sending SOSs now.
Tom the Tyrant.
Oh my goodness.
Thomas Tyrant FF.
Look, we are going to give you our Underdog pick'ems right away. Because again, we are sponsored by Underdog. You can go to underdogfantasy.com. You can use promo code FULLTILT, FULLTILT. And they will deposit match you up to $100 to play everything from Pick'em to playoff best ball and Best Ball Mania come next season. You're not going to want to miss out on that. Last week we didn't do so good. Vanilla Vic was not. He was more vanilla than Vic last week. He did not cover the 38.5 rushing yards. We missed. Gabe Davis over under 4 receptions that washed. I think he hit exactly.
Mine do.
Ramondre Stevenson hit 3.5 receptions.
Yeah, that guy 8.5.
He should get points for tripling his line.
he is playing out of his goddamn mind. He is. I saw a tweet today that said there's no reason he couldn't be the RB1. I was like, there's a few, but he's been phenomenal. Truly phenomenal. Yeah. But this week I'm going back to the quarterback rushing because I really feel like this has got to hit. The Buffalo Bills, who've struggled a little bit, play a pretty good New England defense. I'm going to say Josh Allen hits the over at 44.5 rushing yards this week. I think he's going to do it. He's their leading rusher like every week, it feels like. 2 plays, he can cover that. I'm looking for a big week from Josh Allen. Unfortunately, that'll be against Jacob, which makes me sad. Billy?
Tom just looked at his phone and was like, what's the first line? Allen rushing yards? I'll take that.
I'm not confirming nor denying.
Yeah. Easy one for me this week, which is crazy to say given what the line is. I'm going to take the under on Derrick Henry rushing yards. His current line is at 95.5 rushing yards. He hasn't hit that in 3 weeks. And he's playing Philadelphia, who I think are going to make Tennessee kind of put the ball in Ryan Tannehill's hand a little bit more. And Tennessee is finding out that they can do that and still keep Derrick Henry involved because all of a sudden he's a pass catching back more and more. So I think his rushing is going to take a little bit of a hit this week. I don't think we're looking at that, 150-yard game from Derrick Henry. Maybe we're looking at 70, 80, and he's also adding 40, 50 yards receiving on the game. So I think this is a pretty easy one in my eyes. I could be very wrong on it. I apologize.
Man, as usual, I don't look at the picks ahead of time. And while I like my pick and I don't mind Billy's pick, I probably wouldn't play them together because I'm taking the exact other running back in that game, Miles Sanders, and I'm taking his under 65.5 rushing yards.
Oh.
The Tennessee Titans have allowed 84.5 rushing yards per game total to opposing teams this year. That is the 3rd best mark in the NFL. They've generally been one of the toughest fronts to run against. Their secondary is suspect. What we've seen out of the Philadelphia Eagles, especially this year, is that they are one of the most proficient teams in terms of altering their run-pass ratio based on opponent's strength. We saw them play a pass funnel defense in Pittsburgh. They came out throwing all over the lot. We saw them play a run funnel defense in Green Bay. They came out running all over them. I expect they're going to be playing to the strengths of the Tennessee defense, and they're going to probably be throwing the ball a lot more than they're going to be running the ball in this spot. I like Miles Sanders under 65.5, and I'd be looking potentially at overs for Philly's pass catchers and Jalen Hurts.
You're just trying to manifest that A.J. Brown game. It's really making me sick.
I mean, if you think A.J. Brown isn't going to have a touchdown against the Titans, yeah.
Fair. Yeah, revenge game narratives. We love that here.
That guy's petty. Say what you want about A.J. Brown, but he's petty king.
Fair point. Fair point.
This will be the one game he doesn't leave arbitrarily with an injury just so he can play every snap. He'll fucking return punts.
He's going to be out there in a walking boot, running 9 routes.
Returning kicks and phenomenal. All right, that was our weekly pick'em plays. You gotta love that. Look, we're gonna take a couple seconds break. When we come back, we're gonna get into some rookie process. It looks like, so sit tight. Hey, look. Sometimes when you're drafting, it can go really fucking badly. I don't think there are as many totally egregious misses when it came to actual draft time, but boys, I'm looking at our draft list and boy, it is a wild list. Obviously, as soon as we put these top 28 together, top 25 together, we immediately wanted to change all of them. That's how it works, but it's a countdown. It's a 4-week process, so we let it ride. And there are some hits, there are some misses. It's important to reflect. Jacob, you are someone that is constantly fiddling with your process. Your process is constantly getting worked on. I think that's super important. What have you learned? What was your biggest positive takeaway from your 2022 draft process?
I think probably, this is kind of always a little bit of how I tend to approach things, but I think the biggest thing is just trying to really be focused on taking guys at the most appropriate prices in rookie drafts, especially when you're playing a lot of dynasty leagues. Most of where I look back and I'm like, this was sort of the best result that I got was often trading back to the end of tiers, getting myself potentially access to guys that I didn't take a lot of at better prices, being pleasantly surprised, keeping myself open where, if I'm in leagues with a bunch of like data focused people, I get a certain blend of players. If I'm in a league with a bunch of more traditional analysts, I get a certain amount of players. You kind of end up in the wash, and it gives you a lot of flexibility to work with. I think when you look at, how we want to be attacking Dynasty, or at least how I want to be attacking Dynasty rookie drafts and rookies in general, is like the value on these guys is changing constantly. They're constantly changing to so many different inputs that I really do want to have my hand in as many pots as possible in terms of gathering that exposure, because, I think if you just wind up in a spot where you're really only taking a player analysis view of each player, and you're looking at, okay, these are the guys that I want on my team forever, and these are the guys that I don't. Like, I love that I have opportunities where I get exposure to guys like Olave, and it's like, oh, this guy actually looks like a stud, I want to hold him. Or where I have exposure to guys here, like a Jahan Dotson was an example where this guy I wasn't super high on, end up with a bunch of him just at a cost-effective price. And I'm like, I think this guy's like a pretty glaring sell when he was putting up all those touchdowns. And I want to be able to action that. I want to be able to actually put that to work. So it's a couple. That's probably, I think, the biggest thing that I would look at for others is like, make sure that don't be the one like trading up for your guy. I think identify the tiers where you want to live in, soak up some extra value, and give yourself flexibility to play throughout the year.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm going to talk about pigeonholing yourself in a couple of minutes. Billy, what was your most positive outlook for the 2022 class process?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I want to give us some credit because we did these rankings but prior to the draft, and I think a lot of these rankings would have changed immediately after the draft.
4 weeks before the draft.
Yeah. We did this well ahead of time. So Malik Willis at number 2 probably would have gone down pretty fast.
I think that went down quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
I mean, my favorite call from the draft, and this is something that I just got to take a win with because I was fighting this battle a little bit throughout the course of the draft process, was specifically around a guy that Jakob already mentioned in Chris Olave. The entire draft season, it seemed like the narrative around Chris Olave was treating the early declare status as a box tick. He's not an early declare, move him down your rankings. And I feel like that a lot of that kind of comes from like the results of that kind of change how we should approach this process in terms of early declare moving forward. Because Chris Olave, keep in mind, could have declared the year before and been a second round draft pick, and came back and immediately was a top. What was he? Top 12? Top 13?
I think you went 12. Yeah.
He is pretty
maybe 11.
I think he was 12.
Oh, 11. You went 11. Yeah.
11. So right after Garrett Wilson, the third wide receiver off the board. So like all of that like comes down very quickly to say a lot of these analytics, they come from a very strong point to say this stuff guides how we should approach a lot of these players. But keep in mind, all these players still have a story behind them, because a player like Olave, sure, he wasn't an early declare, but I mean, the fact that he could have came out the year before and been completely fine, I think a lot of that needs to guide how we approach some of this moving forward, because a lot of that talent, and sure, that might get flushed out in the breakout age, the age-adjusted production. All that might end up getting flushed out later on in the draft analysis. Sorry, I just realized part of my beard is like sticking down. It's driving me crazy every time I look at myself. I'm going to go shave that.
On air.
Yeah, no. I think we like the approach that we take towards some of these draft picks need to come with a little bit more nuance than just box checking, move on.
Okay. Yeah, I can dig that.
I mean, I don't think we should change things based on one player. I guess that would be my take. Like, I think I'm fine with like adding him in, and I mean, he's a good example in that there aren't that many. We talked about this on the show with Scott too, where the difference between like an Olave and a Dotson, for instance, is like Olave was an early productive player. Like, he was productive by year 2, and like what Billy's saying is totally right. Like, if he had been an early declare, like Billy said, he probably would not have gone round 1. So the profile would look a little bit different. But like in theory, if you just lop off his senior year from existence, he still is an early breakout player. He has high production in his first couple of years. Someone like a Dotson doesn't, where he only gets those 2 upper threshold years when you add in the senior season. I mean, historically, the early declare status has been a signal. I don't think that I would stop caring about it based on one player, but I do think as we go into the name, image, and likeness era, it's definitely possible that we see more prospects that look like Olave, and it's definitely worth folding that in. You know, you get a new data point. I mean, I think, I think it's definitely, well, it's not like we already didn't, right? Like I didn't have Olave and Dotson in the same tier. So I think we already do care about players who have early production relative to other late declares who don't. I think like how we view those players versus the early declares who have similar production profiles, like I'll probably always prefer those. I think maybe the more interesting one would have been like him versus like Jameson or something. I think where you go back and forth, where you have one that's a later breakout, one that declares early. I mean, it's not like I'm saying like I think that we're doing it all right now and we shouldn't switch based on one player. It's just that I also don't think we should switch things based on one player, even if we aren't right. Does that make any sense?
No.
To sum it up, isn't it? You should just be less dismissive.
I think it's
dismissive from completely wiping it off the board.
I think it's.
But I don't think we were wiping them off the board.
I think it's a lot more the way we treat a lot of these kind of analytics, where it's just stat, checkbox, don't checkbox, move on. And like there's less of an approach towards that specific thing. Like if Olave would have came out last year or the year before, 2nd round pick, kept the same production and came out into the draft, I think a lot of his value would have been very similar to what it is now, a year on, or however far removed from the draft we are. I think it's a lot more to say that the production from these players is more built in. Like it needs more nuance than just a box check. Because when we look at these players, sure, a lot of that production is going to get folded in. And I'm not saying we should change anything like in how we approach analytics. I just remember seeing a lot of people being like, Olave is in a tier outside of the top 4, top 5, however they rank those guys. And a lot of people saying, oh, he's older. Oh, he's not an early declare. And I think that this is something that just someone who works with data a lot and sees a lot of this, it's very easy to just take that point, move on. And I think it requires a little bit more nuance. It takes that human element away to just go, this happened, this didn't happen. That's how we should approach this player. And I think that's something that we should change as analysts.
Being less dismissive. I think you're right. I think that's a great point.
I guess I'm going to push back where I think that I think anytime that you're in an argument and one person's like, well, we should be more nuanced. It's like, it's always easy to come off as the most reasonable person in the room with that opinion. But then like, we still have to rank players, I guess is my thing. Right. So it's like, I don't know. Do I think that Olave should have been ranked ahead of, like, do I think now with what we've seen, I mean, we're going to do it in a second. Do I think now Olave looks like potentially the best rookie in the class? Yes. Do I think that he should have been ranked ahead of any of Burks, Wilson, or London at the time? Like, I don't think so. Like, I would fully stand by him not being in a tier with those 3 as prospects. Like, I think if we play it out with 100, with a sample size of several different players, like, I would rather bet on the Burks, Wilson, London profiles than the Olave profile over the period of time. And if that's the wrong call, that might be the wrong call. Like, maybe we're fundamentally missing something in that profile. But I think that I guess it's hard to change that. And I think it's like, we can say, oh, well, we should be more humble, but it's like, then how do we action that? Right. Like, no, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, how do we action that stuff? Right. Like, do we actually rank these guys differently? I think we should always be building in the probability that we're wrong into how we play, right? We should be open to trading down. We should be open to taking guys when they fall past ADP. We should not be crossing guys off our board. But in terms of like the actual ranking, like, yeah, like I feel pretty fine about not putting him in a tier with those 3 guys personally. And I would defend that. Like I think that yeah, I guess that's where I would be, where I would take the stand, is that there's almost like nothing Olave could do where I would say that he should have been ranked ahead of those 3 guys. I don't think that he had a better profile of those 3 guys, but oftentimes the guys that, you know, anyone thinks by any process has the best profile doesn't end up having the best career. So it's hard.
So I'll start with my what my biggest negative, right? Because my biggest positive, you guys summed it up pretty much. We feel pretty similar about what our positives are within the process. Okay. More important than what our positives were, I feel, is our negatives. And my biggest negative is that I completely, well, I did what Billy said. I didn't check the box and I let it go. And also to what you said, I didn't diversify enough. I was really gotten to my own, I guess, my own bubble, like my own stage. I stood on my soapbox, and instead of, you know, maybe not taking Sky Moore in every draft, I could have maybe taken a few more JMOs. I could have taken a few more Olaves, but I went, nah, I don't like Olave as a prospect, so I'm not gonna even try. And I think that that's a big problem that I have. I'm stubborn. I'm a stubborn fantasy football player. I know this. You guys know this. I'm stubborn as hell. So I think what I'm going to try to do next year is be a little bit more open to the idea of expanding my own stances on some of these rookies that are coming in. I'm looking forward to doing that. So if you had to have your biggest negative, let's say, Jacob, what would your biggest negative from your process?
I think that I should have done a little bit more of drafting, thinking about future market conditions. Like I don't understand why I took Jameson Williams in a single rookie draft. I think that was just moronic. Not because I don't think he'll have a good career. Like I think he'll probably have a good career. I just feel like we had a spot where like he was not going to play football until at least halfway through the year. I didn't think it'd be this late at the time of rookie drafts, but we didn't think he was going to play early on. And so you just miss out on all of those opportunities to cash out on like positive signals that don't even matter. And while a player is just burning a hole on your bench, like when we look at rookie value curves, we know that for the most part, rookies as an aggregate class are way more likely to go up in value, at least for temporary spikes, than they are to go down in value significantly over the course of the rookie year. And so I think like taking Jameson I think was just sort of folding an opportunity to take shots on Sky's, Olave's, Picken's, Pickett's, and trade backs, trade ops, and whatever, where I could have been taking more advantage of opportunities to make deals. Again, that's something about Jameson, the player. I think like what I should have done is be like, I'm just going to trade for Jameson later. And if I can't, so what? But I'm just going to try and trade for Jameson after the season or in season. And I would say that would also kick into like, I think like Olave versus like Sky and Jameson in particular, it should have been like, okay, Jameson's not going to play. Sky's a lot more fragile in terms of a second round pick. Olave's a first round pick. He has like more insulation. Like that should just be where we're betting from like a market perspective. And then I think also like going into second rounds, like I was taking a lot of like David Bell. And I think that was like a fundamentally fine bet in terms of like a player to be on. Like I think his profile was solid, but I think thinking about it, it's like, where are we getting the value hit? Like the threshold for him as like a guy playing on a Brissett offense for a long time. You know, I think that's where you're getting a guy who's a wide receiver, who's going to play slot wide receiver. Where's the big value uptick there that we're going to be able to take advantage of versus like just taking more shots on the Damian Pierces? And now obviously he succeeded. Isaiah Spiller did not succeed, whatever, but I think I should have been taking more bets on those guys with the higher market upside. I think as opposed to some of these guys where I was getting too far into the weeds with the player evaluation. Sure.
I love that too, because I definitely don't, and I've started to, as this pod has grown and we've grown as players, to look more market heavy. That's not a focus that I had, but it's definitely locked in. And again, applying that to next season's process, I think I cannot wait to do our list next year. I think it's going to be great, and especially with applying that. We do have a question before we get to Billy's from Salt Mayor. If you are totally risk neutral, is there any reason to diversify?
I'd say yes. Well, yes and no. Okay. There's reason to not take
I'll
players
just
ahead of
leave the
8.
stream. I just heard that wind up. I'm like, Jacob's going off on this one.
No, this will be very quick. I was just figuring out the way to phrase it.
Yeah, the wind up is usually a good tell. Too.
I know. I would say that there is not a great reason to take players consistently ahead of ADP. So if you happen to be in drafts with the same people over and over and over again, and the ADP is kind of falling the same way in your rookie drafts over and over and over again, then I would say diversification is simply a matter of risk preference. But I think that you can often passively diversify by just taking guys a little bit closer to ADP than your rankings, and so that you're naturally only getting guys when they fall to or behind ADP, and then you're just going to end up with a more naturally diversified portfolio. And I think that that's a benefit because you're on aggregate getting a little bit of excess value just by soaking up ADP value.
Nope. Phenomenally said. I got nothing to add. I think that's great. I think the only reason I agree, like there are some players that come with inherent risk. Sky Moore is one of them. I should have diversified, which is what I said. I didn't. I just said, I'm going to beat that risk no matter what. At that point, you have to diversify. Big Billy, what was your biggest negative?
Yeah, I think mine kind of falls. It's hard to say this was one or the other. So I'm going to list it as two. I think the first mistake I made, and I made this mistake the year before, was not listening to what the NFL draft told me enough. This is something that's really easy to do when you're looking at these guys for months and you fall in love with a player and all of a sudden, the draft comes in, they just do not. And you know what? This completely goes in line or goes against what I said my win was this year with David Bell. Love David Bell. I loved him as a prospect. You know what? He ran a little slow. He ran pretty slow, but whatever. And all of a sudden, he comes out, tests, and we look in the draft, and he gets day 2 capital. And we all want to be excited about day 2 capital. Check that box, move on. But a lot of that hurts because David Bell was a player that was looked at as potentially being a day 1 pick, an early day 2 pick. And the draft came in, and the Browns were kind of sitting at the back of the draft and went, I guess David Bell, we need a receiver, move him. A lot of that is kind of hard to directly evaluate because David Bell was one of my guys moving into the rookie draft who I was leaving with every single draft. And following with the not listening to what the NFL draft told me enough, my second loss, and probably the one that hurts me the most, because I hate when players do this, and I completely did it, was paying attention to the QB next to the name. That one really hurt this year. I am famously on record after day 2 of the NFL draft saying Kenny Pickett is the 102. That hurt. I'm also famously on record for going into multiple rookie drafts and taking early round 2 to mid and late round 2 draft picks on players like Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, and even Matt Corral. Now, at the time, a lot of that made sense to me. Matt Corral seemed like he had a legitimate chance to get a starting opportunity. He may still have that chance.
I mean, look at what happened in Carolina this year. That guy would have been starting for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have been any good, but there's 100% chance that guy would have taken a lot of snaps this year if he stayed healthy.
Yes.
Yeah, we all expected Ridder to play at some point, but Arthur Smith is going to Arthur Smith.
I mean, I think that the reason Ridder's not playing is because fucking Tampa Bay sucks. If Tampa Bay was 8-4, like we think, and Atlanta was totally out of the playoff race, like we'd be treated to some Ridder right now. But with them, they're a half a game back because Tampa Bay can't win any games.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I always complain about super flex players who are like this. Mac Jones, he plays the quarterback position. He's worth a top tier anything like wide receiver, running back, even though he's very, very boring, which is fun to say after coming off of probably the best game of his career on Thanksgiving. But like players like Willis, Ridder, Corral, it's very easy to go, they're a QB, they produce. They're going to score more fantasy points when they're on the field than players like Watson, like the players that I would have taken over them had I made the right call. But if they don't get on the field, which should have been what was indicated by the fact they were round 3 picks, both of them to places that had already made severe commitments to a different quarterback, sans Matt Corral. I still stand by Matt Corral being a good call, but whatever. A lot of these players kind of having to read them off as, they should have done it and they just didn't get playing time. I should have just listened to the NFL draft when Willis wasn't the 102 and instead was the 330 or whatever he was, and just gone, well, I was wrong. And I'm not going to take them early in rookie drafts.
I'll tell you, I definitely fell victim to the second round, quarterback. I took Willis, I took Ritter for sure over guys like Rachaad White, over guys like Dameon Pierce, far too many times. And I really love that one.
Speaking of the fantasy Foot Clan
also,
league,
what's up, Husker? Shout out.
I'm infamous in that league. I needed picks. I should have taken good picks. And I had the 2-2, 2-3, 2-4 all back to back to back. And I just used them on Ritter, Willis, Corral.
And I got Rachaad White at 2-5. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's not just breaking down but that's putting it on the table. Not everyone does that. So shout out Billy for that. When we come back, we're gonna do not in our league, or not in my league, and then we're gonna draft. I swear to God, we're drafting. Sit tight. Okay, for what is most likely the last week of not in my league, we like to play a little waiver wire game that I absolutely suck at. I don't even have any money to bid because I thought we had $200, not $100, because I don't listen that well. So look, this is what it is. We understand that your league is great. It's dominant. You are the best. You're the sharpest. None of these players would ever see the waiver wire in your league. You guys are 3 weeks ahead. You guys are picking up your defenses 5 weeks in advance. Hell, half of you guys are so smart, you don't even play defenses in your leagues because you're too good for it. These aren't for you. This is for everyone else. What we do is we like to take a couple of players off the waiver wire that are available in over 50% of Yahoo leagues. Again, not your leagues, but over half of 50% of leagues, they are available to people to pick up. What we like to do is we like to pick players. Since I don't have any money, I don't pick a player. Billy and Jacob, they've already picked a player, and we are going to blind bid on those players. Again, not me, because I suck at this.
Well, that's actually what we do every other week, but now I'm also out of money. And so I just asked Billy who he wants.
You know what?
Billy has like $13 left, and me and you have $0. So basically, I was just like, anyone that we nominate, if Billy wants them, he can just nominate $1 until the end of the season. So basically, Billy can just fill it with his lineup, and we have our lineup.
I got Treston Ebner sitting on my roster. Yeah. So we don't need the drum roll. Jacob, am I allowed to, for the first time, introduce my player?
Go ahead.
That is the
I will be throwing Treston Ebner, or as my Bears fan stepdad calls him, Otis, for some reason. I will be throwing Treston Ebner to the wind to pick up Mike White.
All right.
So
all right.
The quarterback,
the quarterback
game with Justin Fields has paid off greatly. So I'm going to take Mike White.
All right, and I should announce, by the way, that I had stopped counting after the big Fields games because I was pretty sure that Billy was just running away with it. Fields has not done much. Well, 2 weeks ago he didn't do much, and then this week he didn't play. And so I might actually be getting a little bit back into this after the Garrett Wilson game. So I'm gonna have to actually tabulate for next week's episode to let us know before we go into the final week of the regular season where we're at. I can tell you that Tom is also probably gaining steam. He has Rachaad White, Gus Edwards, and Christian Watson. So he would have gotten some points from Rachaad White. He's been piling up the Christian Watson point this week. And then I have Garrett Wilson, Latavius Murray, and Kenneth Walker. Billy now has Mike White, Justin Fields, and Isaiah Pacheco going into week 14.
I'm more just pissed that I was having like an epic lead in to the bit, and then it got deflated right away.
Yeah.
So like I was on a WWE promo level of leading that bit in, and it just immediately did, like someone's music just cut in and the crowd started booing. Like that was a brutal cutaway. But look, I can't wait to get the point total. We're gonna do that next week. We got one more week of it, but that's not in our league. Billy gets New York Jets savior, quarterback savant, phenomenal elite player, Mike White, bringing fantasy football
I
back.
hope throws every single touchdown to Mike Garrett Wilson.
I need at least one for Elijah Moore. So when we come back, we're drafting. Sit tight. We're fucking drafting. We're doing it. Sit tight. All right, so after some deliberation with two of the smartest people I know, we decided how we are going to do this draft. We have got, what do we want to do? We want to do one round? I think
one round and maybe an honorable
mention.
Please,
I don't want to be drafting third-round picks here.
I want to make Billy draft that many picks, to be honest. All right, we're gonna do the first round and a couple honorable mentions, and this is how it's gonna go.
We do 2 rounds, but the second round we literally just say a name. Like
we'll
you just
see.
go
like
George Pickens, and then John. Like you just say a name.
Well,
I have my think rankings up to 17. That is as far as y'all are getting.
We'll do the top 12, and we'll see how it goes with time. Okay,
we'll Bill is gonna start trading him for 25 seconds.
I'll give you Trey Sermon for the second.
Oh my god. Okay, and this is how it's gonna go down.
A rookie named Trey again in round 2 after Sermon and McBride.
100%.
Trey, just pass the trade out.
Oh my god. Okay, look, this is how it's gonna go. Billy, since you are leading in the weekly points, you've won it. You will get 101. I will get 102. Jacob will get 103, and then it'll go back to Billy for 104. Everyone comprende, and we'll go as we go there. 3, 6, 9, 12. We're each getting 4 here. So Billy redrafting the 2022 rookie class in a vacuum. This is not like with market value included. This is just in a vacuum with what we know now, applying what we know now to what we thought of the prospects to begin with. In a vacuum. I just want to be clear about that. Who are you taking now at the 101?
In the current climate, looking at these players,
has global warming affected your rookie rankings?
And the fact that I made so many good weekly picks so that I could have the number 1 pick here to have my soapbox and say, with the number 1 pick, I am taking still Breece Hall.
Yeah, I don't think that doesn't surprise most people.
Yeah, he's extremely young. He's extremely talented. He's on a team that clearly wants to use him. Even if he comes back next year and he's 80% of who he was this year, I think he's an RB1. And when he comes back fully healthy after year 2, if we assume that's what's going to happen, he's still going to be younger than Najee Harris when he was drafted. So, I mean, Breece Hall still has such a long career ahead of him. I'm so happy to take him here, number 1.
Interesting. I was ready for the immediate anti-RB take from Jacob. It looked like he was about to have one. I think it's a good pick. I just when the only thing I thought was interesting when you were like, I think that's easily who like we'd all take, whatever. I think that probably is who we'd all take. But I do think if you pulled Twitter, I mean, I think you'd see a lot.
I think there's a strong conversation. Yeah. I think. I mean, just look at the Dynasty RB1 discussion right now. Like Walker's in there, Hall's in there. Like, I mean, it's bouncing around. But I think Hall is so young and talented. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I don't. It's not surprising to me, honestly, not at all. Breece Hall's just fucking good. I'll just say I don't give a fuck about the Dynasty RB1 conversation anymore. Like ETN hurt his foot again. If that injury was for like a week or two, people like he's not the Dynasty RB1 anymore. He's Dynasty RB5 because he hurt his foot again.
I think that right there, the conversation you just had, is why Jakob isn't drafting Jamison Williams ever again. Much shit happens.
Right. That's like, I want to just take advantage of the lunacy. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I want to ride this roller coaster and have the opportunity to take advantage of the craziness.
But the pure arguments, especially if you get into like the Twitter debates about who the one is, who the two, I think it's all dog wash, in my opinion. It's tiers only. If I were gonna go 102, look, this is interesting because if you look at what my opinion was to what it is now, I'm a little embarrassed to say I'm taking Chris Olave at 102. He's an alpha receiver. I think that he's shown that. I think he's done everything he could possibly do. He's doing it with less than amazing quarterback play, to be honest with you. I thought maybe he would be the outside guy. I thought maybe he would be just a deep guy. Nah, he's a do everything guy. He's red zone. He is what he is, which is elite. He's run 336 routes. He has the best PFF receiving grade. He's averaging 14.2 points per game, highest in this rookie class. Just down across the board, elite player, and not just for a rookie, as just a general wide receiver. I hate to be the situation guy, but Atlanta scared me off of Drake London at 102. And I prefer Chris Olave to even Garrett Wilson, who I understand is playing in a hellscape. I get it. But my 102 right now in a vacuum is Chris Olave.
I think that is a totally fun pick. At the 103, you made my life a little bit easier. I'll take Kenneth Walker at the 103.
Oh,
I mean, it's just
I was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, so it's the hard thing with the in a vacuum. I don't know how long this vacuum extends for.
That's at the bottom of the show sheet.
If this was a world where it's like I can never make trades for the rest of time in Dynasty, then maybe I'd think long and hard about Garrett Wilson and Drake London here. But my assumption is like at some point in my life, I'm going to be able to allow to make trades again. I exit the vacuum and back into the climate. And I just think in terms of how Dynasty managers operate, when we have a rookie running back who's shown what he's shown, and I've outlined my concerns with Kenneth Walker before, he still has provided on net really positive rushing value. He's shown at least a little bit in the passing game, not a lot, but he's shown a little bit, especially in that Tampa Bay game, and that's helped buoy his season long up to sort of workable levels. It's just going to be easier to use the running back value however I want to do it. And ultimately, I don't like holding a lot of roster value in young wide receivers and running backs that aren't providing me elite production anyway. I ideally want to pivot that production into picks. I want to pivot it into veterans that are scoring more. I want to pivot it into quarterbacks and tight ends. But in terms of who's going to give me that maneuverability and who I think solidly is a good long-term bet, like I don't think he's a fragile bet. I don't think he's going anywhere. I'm going to ride with Kenneth Walker.
That's interesting, man. I like him. He has to sum up kind of what I've seen on the Bird app. Like he has some absolute elite upside play. Then he also has can you fucking run forward? Like there's just sometimes you're like, can you just go that way and not this way? There's something to that. And I want to also shout out a little bit of Geno Smith for help pumping that Seattle offense up. Because if that offense
Seattle backfield.
I really think if Geno Smith would have like just fallen completely flat on his face, I think Kenneth Walker's dynasty value is more to what Dameon Pierce's is than what he is now, being moved up somewhere like the 103. I think that we're living in a world of variables, and that was a fucking big one. So shout out him. All right, next up, Billy, unless you have anything to add, 104, baby.
No, I thought I was going to get to take Kenneth Walker, so that was a little bit of a bummer. So I get to take Jacob's boy. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson. I mean, starting off the season, I viewed him as a very similar level prospect to Drake London. And they both had bad quarterback play. Wilson has shown out. London hasn't. Like, I'm more than happy to take Wilson over London right now. And the rest of this wide receiver class, really, outside of probably Olave. I mean, Olave is – I think right now I would still take Wilson over Olave. But I mean, it's pretty close. Like, I think it's a clear top four here. We were talking previously in the draft when we first did this, it was like 101, then a tier break. It feels like that tier break is kind of spread out a little bit and taken in Olave, Wilson, and Walker. and maybe someone else, depending on your takes. But with that, I got to defer my 104 over to the 105 for Mr. Thomas Tipple.
All right. This might seem crazy. Remember, this is a super flex draft, and what we look for is quarterback value at this draft. And for a player that I took a giant shit on the whole time, I'm going to take Kenny Pickett. And I'll tell you why I'm going to take Kenny Pickett. We want a little bit of rushing on top of our passing. Kenny Pickett's passing volume since taking over, he has had games of 13 attempts in his first game. His second game, he threw the ball 52 fucking times. He went 13, 52, 18, 44, 38, 30, 42, 28. They are letting the kid throw the football, and he is producing. He has had 3 rushing touchdowns already, which we absolutely love to see for fantasy value. Obviously, we talk about it all the time. He's even accumulated almost 200 rushing yards. The man is not just being a pylon. He's providing that little bit extra. He's right that he's at Trevor Lawrence level rushing upside at this point, honestly. Really, when you break it down. And he is getting better. That offense isn't even as bad as we thought it was, at least certainly not as bad as it was with Mitch Trubisky. I think that his value is insulated at this point. The draft capital, how he's performed. I get that he's ancient in terms of rookie quarterbacks, but I think that he's deserved a value bump. And I think some of his best games really go ahead and show that. He's been a mid-range QB2 most of the season with 1 QB1 finish, and I think that that's more than we can ask for. QB 18, 19, 25, not great. 17, 27, not great, but 12, 16, and then 25 against your Indianapolis Colts. But I think with the depleted offensive line, a broken down running back, and a mess of receivers to where they had to move a guy like Claypool midway through the season, when he didn't get a full season to start, I like Kenny Pickett, and in a vacuum, I think he should have gone higher than he did. So my 105 is Kenny Pickett.
Falling from 102 to 105. Love to see.
I think that Tom plays in a league with me where I have Kenny Pickett, and I think that you should trade for him.
In a draft, homie, not after. And especially when I know who I'm trading for or trading with.
Yeah. So I'm pumped that I get to do this at 106. I thought I was going to have to make a pretty tough pick, but I will run to the podium and select Drake London at the 106.
Oh, thank God. This is great.
Yeah, this to me is a really easy pick. I considered him at the 103. I'm thrilled to get him at the 106. I think the Atlanta offense has been unlike really much that we've seen over the last decade of NFL football in terms of their passing volume. And it's greatly obscured, I think, even more than people already know how we should be viewing their assets. In terms of targets per route run, Drake London is at 0.233. That's third in the class. It's only trailing Chris Olave, and then it's 0.003 behind Christian Watson. So he's practically tied for second in target earning. His PFF grade is third highest in the class, 76.8. That's a really strong grouping in terms of up and above 75. He's only behind Olave and Garrett Wilson there. It's really been a matter of efficiency. It's been a matter of pass volume where he's not scoring as much as those other top 2 guys, but he has clearly been the third most impressive over the course of the season at worst among the rookie wide receivers. And in my view, it is still a clear tier of 3 before we get to any of the other rookie wide receivers. I would take Drake London at least at 5. I think it'd be a coin toss for me between him and Wilson, but definitely pumped to take him here at the 106.
100%. I like it. I like the pick. I know people are worried off on him, and if Mariota comes back, I think he, in a weird kind of way, I think he kind of follows the Jameson Williams conversation, where you could definitely get him cheaper now than you did when he was the 102. He's definitely actually acquirable at this point.
I would, in theory,
most.
Man, have I tried? I think I have a lot. I think I have him in like 8 or 9 leagues, and in the other 40, I've sent an offer, but every week I try again, and I will try again this week.
You're gonna keep trying. I love it.
Billy, keep trying.
Yeah, this one I really like to take because I love how much this player has risen over the course of the season. Because it was really funny watching him get taken almost exactly at the 107 in rookie drafts. Everyone's like, oh, shit, they took him there. So I'm going to take the guy I was the highest on amongst our entire group in the rookie draft. I'm going to take George Pickens here. I think he's one of the players that has shown out more and more. He's I know. He's a human highlight reel. The team is clearly comfortable enough moving away to send Chase Claypool off to not be used in Chicago and to kind of use Pickens more than Deontay Johnson. I mean, as much as we want to jump on this train.
But their targets, okay, but what do you mean use more? Like Deontay has 94 targets. Pickens has 57.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's like a lot more.
Look, every time a stat line comes out, Pickens is always the lead receiver on that team. Like,
the only thing Pickens doesn't lead in is expected points, which Jacob likes to point out every single time Deontay Johnson either catches a pass or gets a target.
Like, we can go into this Pickens discussion all we want. I get that there is other guys in this draft class. I was very happy you took London because I view like these next three wide receivers, I view very similarly in my eyes. I think there's certain levels of has shown it and haven't shown it between players like Pickens, Burks, and Watson. And I think Watson, you can jump on and say, oh, he's been great, but it's all touchdowns. That's not going to continue. And the Packers seem like they're on the decline. I think Pickens has shown out as a player that can turn into that alpha in the league. He's on a team that is developing and building around a young quarterback. And, I mean, players like Burks, I don't see the situation changing so long as Derrick Henry is still doing what he's doing. And the dude is a Yeti. So I'm more than happy to take Pickens here.
Just so we're clear, Deontay Johnson has more targets, more catches, more fantasy points, and 5 less yards than George Pickens this year.
Yeah, and Pickens did that in like he was not involved in the offense until week 4. Like he wasn't getting targeted.
I'm just saying when you're saying every stat line we look at, George Pickens is ahead. Like the only stat line he's touchdowns 2-0, and yards he's leading by 5 yards.
Okay, let me reassess what I meant because I knew what I meant. And you're right.
Anything George Pickens triggers Jacob. And
no. Jacob is right. Let me reassess what I meant. In the time since we have seen the takeover of Kenny Pickett, we have seen over and over again George Pickens is his favorite piece of that offense. And more we're seeing that is where the best production has come from in that offense. Yeah. And I think
if he was his favorite, why isn't he targeted more?
Because when you get look, we can continue this discourse later on.
I want to.
Like we have an entire rookie draft. Well, we have an entire rookie draft.
Okay, but I just this Pickens thing, right? But we're on pick 7 of it. We're only doing first round. Like, let's talk about the Pickens thing. Like, I understand that he's like a good NFL player, and I don't even think that it's totally insane to pick him here or anything like that. What I just don't understand with the Pickens is I feel like people have incepted a false narrative of what's happened, where it's like this is Pickett's favorite receiver, but like favored in which way? Like he doesn't get thrown the ball more. Like he has less targets than Deontay Johnson, like by a considerable margin. So I think if we want to say, okay, we've seen more Pickens on film that's been positive this year.
We'll get to your question in a minute.
Deontay Johnson has, structural systemic issues with inefficiency, like whatever, everybody's free to have those takes. Or if we think also for the record, like, I don't think that it's incumbent upon Pickens as a rookie to have to earn more targets than Deontay Johnson, a year 4 player in his first year. I think that's like a false standard. The only reason I'm bringing up the Deontay Johnson versus Pickens thing is I've seen so many people call Pickens the wide receiver 1 there, when by like any statistical account, that's just not the case yet. It may
okay.
Be
so I think if you want if you want my honest take, your priors on Pickens shines through a little bit when it comes to talking about him.
His stats aren't good.
Okay,
neither are Deontay Johnson's. Deontay Johnson.
I'm the other guy on this debate here.
Yeah, but I've taken the back seat. I'm chiming in now. Deontay Johnson has been dog shit too. So
look,
I think
I guess it depends what you care about. He earns targets.
When people are talking about what they want in a receiver, it's not 9 yards per reception, completely awful after the catch. They want big alpha type plays, winning downfield, and Pickens provides that. 14.
Why do people? But that's bad.
per
People should want people should look for. Yeah.
Team. Okay, look. All right, let me jump in
Nah,
because I think a lot of this narrative changed very drastically when Kenny Pickett took over. Look, yes, Deontay Johnson has more targets. That's fine. We can very easily make the argument that Kenny Pickett, or oh god, their names are too similar. George Pickens' targets are more efficient. That's very easy to look at. He's getting targeted more downfield. Deontay Johnson, the first 3 weeks, was targeted 12, 10, and 11 times. After that, since Kenny Pickett took over in week 4, he has only hit double-digit targets twice. That's right away we could see. And we can also see in that immediate time a direct uptick in George Pickens' targets. Look, George Pickens does not need more targets to outscore Deontay Johnson. Like you said, he doesn't need to outscore Deontay Johnson. He's 21, brand new to the league. But, I mean, take out those 3 weeks that George Pickens sucked to start the year. I mean, he is, according to Sleeper, look, Sleeper builds rankings based on whatever. In PPR leagues, he is 1 ranking behind Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is wide receiver 41 or 40, and Pickens is 41. Like, even if Deontay Johnson is getting more targets, that's fine. The team was built around him. Like, Deontay Johnson got paid. This is Deontay Johnson's offense. And Pickens, as a 21-year-old, has already developed as a player that is taking away from that, from his immediate time starting in the offense, and has sent Chase Claypool off to Chicago. Like, the team has immediately realized they don't need these other kind of assets around him because Pickens is breaking out in every single game he plays. Like, it's really easy to go.
By what metric? Like, just like making cool catches? Like, this is what I don't get. Like, if we're like, I posted everyone's targets per route run, yards per route run, routes, PFF grades, points per game for this whole class. George Pickens is at 0.147 targets per route run, 1.25 yards per route run. That's lower than, like, remember we talked about Olave, Wilson, London were all 0.22 and above. Burks is 0.22. Christian Watson, 0.24. Wan'Dale Robinson, 0.23. Frickin' Sky Moore, 0.21. Romeo Doubs is higher. We have Alec Pierce is earning a higher degree of targets per route run, more yards per route run than George Pickens. Like, this is what I don't understand. Like, I understand that he has very aesthetically pleasing catches, that when we watch him, that he looks good. I think that he's an NFL player. But in terms of earning targets and in terms of yards when he's on the field, he's doing it at a lower rate than every single rookie wide receiver in this class, except for Jahan Dotson, David Bell, and Tyquan Thornton. And so that just is alarming to me in terms of how highly he's being valued, where I think that the progression that we think there are reasons to think that he's going to progress into a player that is eventually commanding targets and earning yards, but he is priced as though he's already doing it, and he's being taken ahead of players who are already doing it that are also rookies. Like, it's not really about Pickens versus Deontay Johnson, but it's about Pickens versus Burks or Pickens versus Watson. And I would prefer to play the players that are performing significantly better.
Look,
what about Pickens' higher points per game than both London and Treylon Burks?
First, I want to immediately jump in and say Jacob clearly has more data pulled on this, because I wasn't prepared to get into a George Pickens debate here today.
Jacob lives for it. It's in his blood.
Yes, and also we do still have a full draft to do, but like maybe this is something we need to talk about again on a different show that we're directly.
I'll talk about Pickens all day.
Do you know what I'm smelling?
Yes.
People VRTDB of George Pickens next week. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, okay, that's in the books. People VRTDB on George Pickens. It's in the books. It's already there. I'm going to make my next pick.
That might have to wait because I think we're missing weeks.
That's true. You know what? We'll do it. We'll make sure to schedule that for the off season.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be an off season debate.
It'll be a good off season.
And that'll give us more data.
Answer Penguin's question. Would you rather have Rashad White or DeAndre Swift for the rest of the season? If you're playoff locked,
I'll take White I'll take Rashad rest of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Love it. I still think Swift is good. I just want that
I do
noted.
too.
But this last week, I was really hoping to see something. And Jamal, I swear they are set on Jamal Williams breaking the rushing touchdown record. I think that conversation's been had in the building because it's infuriating.
I don't think he's close. Is he?
He's on pace. He's currently on pace to break records. Yeah.
Will Billy come to Canada and murder me if I talk about Swift for 20 seconds?
Please talk about Swift.
Okay.
Why would I murder you for that?
Well, you really wanted to finish the rest of the rookie draft.
No, it's fine. I'm more
this is
saying
why I wanted to start earlier. This is it.
I'm more saying you and me can go back and forth on these guys for 30 minutes. Like we need to.
The people wanted
Swift. So I put out a big tweet thread on Swift. I'm sure you can find it after the Thanksgiving game if you want to name search it. Basically, it was my first time that I got to watch like a Lions game in full, not just like on Red Zone or seeing highlights, etc. And so I was really trying to focus in on not just like the total number of snaps, but like, and not even just the deployment in terms of when they're used, but like what actual concepts is Swift a part of versus what concepts isn't he a part of? Because I'm really trying to hone in on like, if I were a coaching staff and I try to put myself in the two potential mindsets, A, I don't really like this running back anymore. B, I think that this guy is kind of hurt and we're going to use him to the extent we can. How would I try to use him? And what I saw out of Swift, I thought was really positive in that game. When he was on the field in passing situations, he was continually getting creative running back passing usage. He was running angle routes. He was running wheel routes. He was running choice routes. He wasn't just like an outlet leaking out into the backfield. When it was a pass blocking situation or an outlet situation, that was usually Justin Jackson coming in, and Swift was getting the more intentional usage. He was also getting used more inside the 20-yard line than Justin Jackson whenever they wanted to run concepts that involved him versus when they were doing short yardage rushing, it was usually Jamal Williams. And then in terms of in the run game, when his carries, they were usually tendency breakers coming out of shotgun formations, things to get him around the edge. And then lastly, when they had their comeback drive, he was playing almost every single snap in the passing game in that comeback drive, and he was getting targeted relentlessly. So basically, my take is, I think if the Lions actually hated DeAndre Swift, they would not give him the most intentional, focused, fun touches on an important football game. They would not give him 2-point conversion plays. They wouldn't send him in a bunch of creative routes. I think that his shoulder probably has limited hits that it can take right now, and he can't get surgery. And so they're using him in a careful fashion. If you watched him, there's one at I think it's at, I had it wrote it down. It might be 13-15. In the second half, there's a play from the 6-yard line where it's a wheel route. He goes up the sideline.
Yes.
They throw it to him, and he can't extend past this. It's like he had like elbows were like stapled to his chest. I don't think he's healthy. And I'm buying DeAndre Swift based on what I saw out of that game. I think that the Jamal stuff is real. Like DeAndre Swift has issues as a rusher. He's probably always going to be accompanied with either Jamal or a Jamal-like presence. But the Justin Jackson stuff to me is noise. I think eventually he's going to be back to playing mostly the role we saw him play last year as that change of pace rusher, tons of receiving work.
Yep, I agree. I like it. I'm again buying for Dynasty. I have been for a while, especially as soon as I saw his. Now I bought for too much right before his value plummet, but I'll live with it. Look at 108. I'm gonna stop the slide. Traylon Burks, he's going at 108.
Oh, what a great pick.
I like Traylon Burks. I actually love him at this point. I was going to take him over where I took Kenny Pickett, but super flex value, even though Billy said, be a little more mindful. First round super flex value, I think, matters a little more. And I see room for Pickett to grow. I think he's, again, a lot better than I spent sitting 4 weeks taking a giant shit on his little baby hands. So he's definitely proven that those baby hands can play ball. Someone who doesn't have baby hands is Traylon Burks. Over the last couple of weeks, the man is blowing up. I'm happy that I acquired him at reasonable cost before the blow up, and I love him here. I think here at this spot, he's week winning at 108. So I will take Traylon Burks.
I love the Burks pick. Next pick is a couple guys I'm considering for sure, but I think the one I'll go with is Christian Watson. Christian Watson is a guy that I was not super excited about in rookie drafts, and honestly, just like a function of play style, where when guys that I think have upside are falling, then I'm usually going to go for them. I traded for Christian Watson a ton in the first 8 weeks of the season or so, and so I'm fortunate enough to have a lot more now than I did coming out of rookie drafts. The guy's just been legitimately good. It's like a small sample size in terms of what, when I was referencing all of those fancy abbreviations in terms of things that I'm trying to beat people over the head with that they may or may not care about. But what we've seen out of Christian Watson, 144 routes total. So keep that in mind. When we're talking about these other guys, George Pickens up over 400 routes. Olave and Wilson have run over 300. Derek London, 287. So there's a lot of volatility what we've seen in Christian Watson. But what we have seen is awesome. 2.45 yards per route run. Rookies historically over 2 yards per route run is a really, really strong signal. He's over that along with Olave and Treylon Burks. 0.236 targets per route run. That's second highest in the class. And 11.3 points per game. So he's been scoring the third most points per game among rookie wide receivers, despite barely playing in his first stretch of games.
So scores like 5 touchdowns on 6 receptions. Like, it's just insane.
The one thing that I want to hammer home with Watson is, like, I do think that he's volatile. I don't think that he's like a locked in guy. His profile, just from the stats that I tend to focus on, looks almost identical to Burks. I think Burks is a stronger bet. That being said, what I really would emphasize is that this isn't a matter of like I've seen people call him like the Gabe Davis of this year. His profile is a lot better than that. He's not just hitting touchdown luck. He is hitting touchdown luck, but he's also getting a lot of targets, and more of those than usual are resulting in touchdowns. Will he keep scoring a bunch of 80-yard touchdowns? Probably not. But I do think he's going to continue to be really involved in this offense, and I think that he's a strong dynasty asset moving forward. I would trade him for like an early to mid 23 first if people are getting super duper excited, but I'm pretty content holding. I don't think that he's an immediate fire sale off of the hot streak. The hot streak might be real.
Yeah, I agree. My biggest knock on him is that he looked like someone who struggled to play the position he's listed at. And if he figures it out and learns how to play that position with his big man run fast, I think he's scary. And at that point, and he's definitely worth the spot. Billy?
Love it.
Yeah, Christian Watson, I think he's very good. I think he's
happier than you were at the time.
Yeah, I think he's very beaten up. I think that kind of held back his start of the season. I do kind of want to push back because he's had a lot of touchdowns, and those are historically not sticky. And I mean, but beyond that, like, he's shown a legitimate ability to succeed the way the Packers need him to succeed right now. Like a big play player who also has serious potential after the catch. And I think the team can build around that as Rodgers transitions into his later years.
Okay. And your pick?
Yeah. This one is tough for me. This is the first time I really felt like I was going to have a hard time taking a pick. I was worried I was going to have to sit with London. There's one guy I don't want to take here who I think a lot of people would take here. There's also another guy
here.
Yeah, there's another guy that I want to take just so that I can talk about him. But given the way we've discussed, I think I'm going to be able to take him in the honorable mentions. So right here, I'm taking Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White has serious potential if he continues to to maintain this workload in the Buccaneers offense. A lot of people don't realize this. Leonard Fournette was the RB5 through week 6. He was ahead of Breece Hall
and RB receptions or something.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette was dominating to start the year, and now I mean he kind of started falling off around the Carolina game, and ever since then, Rachaad White has just been building up in workload. And we've seen when he gets the ball, he is such a talented player, and he's always been a talented player. I mean, one of the lost episode of us reviewing tape on players, me and Tom, we talked about Rachaad White. We both loved him. Yeah. And I mean, like, moving forward, I think he has every opportunity to keep producing here significantly. And I mean, running backs are valuable, and a young running back who's just going to keep building up. I mean, good for Rachaad White.
Leonard Fournette, by the way, still an RB1 in points per game. I don't think that will last through another game, but he still is the RB12 in points per game at 15.5. So he's hanging on.
And a split backfield with potentially Fournette not being there next year if Brady sticks around, dude's going to be unreal. I have to stop another slide here. I'm taking JMO. I'm taking Jameis.
Oh, okay. He was the honorable mention I was going to take.
No, I'm taking JMO, and I'll tell you why. I highlighted this on the walkabout as one of my players that have been surprising. Before he started to practice, He moved himself up. If you go into Keep Trade Cut, he moved himself up into the top 20 dynasty wide receivers before stepping onto an NFL field to even practice. I think that he's a great player, and had he not blown his knee out in the national title game, we're looking at a very different offense in Detroit, and we're looking at a very different evaluation. I understand that Amon-Ra St. Brown is an alpha receiver. He's elite. He's great. He's phenomenal. But in this spot, when it came down to somebody like Sky Moore or JMO, hindsight's 2020, and Sky Moore is not really looking like it. The explosive upside a player like JMO could be is worth the spot at 112. And 112, historically speaking, dating back to 2017, has been an absolutely smash
111. 111.
You're picking at 111.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry, 111. Not as
You picked at 11 your
spot,
entire
honestly.
life. How could you?
It's true. It's true. Because I always come in fucking second. But I'm happy to stop the slide here at 111. I think when it comes to the rest of the players on this list, he has the most absolute boom upside. Is he Gabe Davis upside? Is he Mike Williams upside? Or is he an absolute burner who can also provide a 24% target share? Maybe he's just taller Marquise Brown. We don't know, but what I do know is he has great draft capital. He has a great senior year
Fast as shit.
production.
Yeah.
And the speed, if it's back, he warrants an elite pick here at 111. Upside, unreal.
I want to emphasize, by the way, just in case anyone misconstrued what I was saying earlier about Jameson Williams, I still have the exact, well, obviously, I have the exact same take on Jameson Williams, the player that I had in the rookie draft season, because we haven't seen him play. So I'm very excited to see him play. The only reason I think, this rookie draft illustrated it. The reason why I'm upset that I took as much JMO as I did at the time is that he did absolutely nothing wrong and fell from like the consensus 106, 107 to now the 111 because it was the other guys that we could have taken some chances on. The only one who ends up falling past him that was commonly going around or near him was Sky, right? Versus guys like Rashad White and Pickens and Pickett who had the opportunity to see him move up. But I still really like Jameson Williams. Definitely who I would have taken at the 111 or the 112 if it had come to me. I guess this is it in terms of the last pick of this first round. And it's just kind of the way that the cookies have crumbled where I keep making these off-brand picks, alternating with on-brand picks. I'll take Dameon Pierce.
Already wrote down.
Look, I guess I'm just a gross person who takes gross players. Am I extremely excited to be holding Dameon Pierce into the offseason? No, you've met me. I have feelings about day 3 running backs that I continue to repeat into existence. But I'm just going to put that aside for now. And I think that Dameon Pierce, despite poor results the last couple of games that are not his fault, has been a really fantastic rushing talent this year for the Houston Texans. In terms of what he's capable of, in terms of his profile, I think he's really maximized it in an incredible way. The Texans have about a zillion needs. Running back is definitely not one of them. I genuinely hope that he gets an opportunity over the next few years to really show what he can do, continue to grow, continue to be used more creatively in the passing game like he was at times at Florida. I think he's a really exciting young football player in the NFL. And while I don't imagine he'll be doing it on a whole lot of my dynasty teams, I look forward to watching him over the next several years very much.
He's one of those players who's just fun to watch. Like, I don't know if I want to roster him a whole lot, but he is fun as hell to watch.
Agreed, 100%. All right, we're going to recap from 101. We got Breece Hall, Chris Olave, Kenneth Walker by Jacob, Garrett Wilson, Billy, myself, Kenneth Pickett at 105. Probably the iffiest pick in this lineup. 106 is Drake London, 107 George Pickens, Traylon Burks, 108 Christian Watson, 109 by Jacob, 110 Rashad White, 111 Jameson Williams, and 112 Dameon Pierce. 3 picks for Jacob that are off-brand. We absolutely fucking love to see it. Let's do some
roster a shit ton of Watson now. That one we swapped around that one. Honestly, perfect time. I had like a tweet like week 6. I was like, now would be a good time to buy Christian Watson. And it's like that Jaylen Brown tweet. It was like the energy has shifted. The energy has shifted. But yeah, Pierce and Walker. Don't roster a lot of them.
100. Let's do some really quick honorable mentions. We're just going to take one guy before we get out of here. We're at about an hour and 14 for the pod. Yeah. So, and Jacob, you got a 5-hour pod to go and record. So,
yeah.
Honorable mentions. Billy, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's a guy that I know like legitimately is going ahead of this player, but I'd be very off brand if I didn't talk about Greg Dulcich, the best tight end in the class. The team's going to continue getting better. I mean, yeah. Either Russell Wilson figures it out or he's not going to be the quarterback of the Broncos. And Greg Dulcich is young, and as a dynasty talent, he is a serviceable tight end right now. And if he ends up in the right situation, could become a stud tight end moving forward.
Already a borderline top 5 dynasty tight end. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. No, I like Dulcich. Obviously, you were the Dulcich table pounder. You were first. We will say you were first. I agree.
Things are thinned out, man. I don't even know who to pick as an honorable mention now. I was going to say Dulcich.
Wait, whoa. There's a player that should be going over Dulcich.
Okay, I don't have notes.
He was drafted in the 7th round.
Oh, I'm not in on this guy at all. I don't care about this guy. Tom can have him if he wants.
Who the hell are you talking about?
Tom, you're the Rutgers fan.
Isaiah Pacheco? Oh, no, absolutely not. No, not my honorable mentions. There's another player that I like in my honorable mentions. Jacob, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
My honorable mentions will be Sky Moore, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
back-to-back games of 5 receptions now that everyone is gone, and this could be a look at what the receiving core is more next year. We'll see what Kadarius Toney brings. We'll see who comes back. We'll see if Hardman is back. We'll see if they keep MVS in his contract. We don't know what the receiving core is going to look like, but Sky Moore is finally getting involved. They've stopped forcing him to return punts for him to fumble. They've stopped putting him in positions to fail, and they've started putting him in positions to succeed. So I think with another year in the offseason, and depending on what happens in that receiver room and down the stretch, if he just gets a little bit more trust within the offense and with Andy Reid, like he has been, his targets have been nice. Rated good points of the field. Again, 5 receptions the last 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. Right now, we're taking a big, fat, stanky L on Sky Moore at this point, but optimism approaches for 2023.
I definitely would have taken Sky Moore with mine, especially once Billy took Greg Dulcich. I'll refer to the chart again. 0.208 targets per route run, 1.71 yards per route run, 73 PFF grade. All of those things are good. Like I color coded the chart where it kind of just scaled from green to red.
It's what I was.
And if you look at him, it's like the targets per route run, the yards per route run, or the yargets. Yargets per route run.
All hands on deck.
Yeah.
Some annoying Twitter handle is about to be peddling yargets the entire
yargets. His yargets. Look, he's been when he's ran the routes, he's earned the yargets.
Yargets truther?
The pirate.
No, metric. I mean obviously the big red cells are the routes number and the points per game number, which of course are pretty linked. Although the points per game number is also artificially low because he keeps fumbling punts and losing -2 every second game. But anyhow, I think that like what we've seen on the field when he's played is not a reason to be out on Sky Moore. If people are like, yeah, but this dude hasn't played, I don't care about him, I think probably odds are that that'll wind up being successful. Me personally, I'm looking at it glass half full. I would rather have the guy who's at least not shown us on the field that he isn't good yet, as opposed to some of these other wide receivers who I think have kind of confirmed that they're bad. So I'm still optimistic about Sky, and I'm very optimistic about Greg Dulcich. I think that's pretty much it for rookies that I'm like actively targeting at this point after those 2 guys, but I'll just keep it on brand, I guess, with my honorable mention. I would have been pumped to make this pick at 2-3 if he didn't tear his ACL. So Wan'Dale Robinson.
That's what I was immediately expecting.
Has been legit good this year. I mean, also limited routes, but 0.232 targets per route run, 1.76 yargets per route run. Obviously, a lot of it's short area of the field stuff. But in the 2 games that he was particularly successful, he was getting not just gadget stuff, but real slot wide receiver targets. I mean, look, I'm looking at his numbers with 2 grains of salt now, unfortunately. One, you kind of have to be like, all right, this is the only playmaker in this offense, and he's primarily a short area of the field player. And 2, being that he tore his ACL. But in terms of all these other options, it's like, who do I think actually put the best performance on the field this year remaining? To me, it's clearly Wan'Dale over these other guys. So I'll ride with him. I'm definitely still looking to buy him low. We'll see what happens. That injury was a pretty massive bummer for sure.
Yeah, it really sucks, especially off his. It seems like every time a New York
The
Giants
middle of his
team
best
has a
game,
great
right?
game,
Like that sucks
Yeah.
so much.
as soon as you hit 100 yards, you're out. Like that just seems to be how the Giants work. That field, can we get a new fucking field for the two New York teams? Like they're two of the richest franchises. Can we replace that dog shit field? I am so happy that they produced, like, I couldn't remember what they said, if it was a petition over, there was something from the NFLPA that like requested the NFL get rid of that specific type of turf, because it's just fucking dog shit. At this point, we shouldn't be playing on like the old Houston Astros-esque turf that just destroys players. Like they gotta know, right? They have data. They have a bunch of nerds that they don't pay. So they have the data. I think it's disgusting. That's a great episode. That is absolutely phenomenal. We've set up a fantastic heroes versus villains, people VRTDB on George Pickens. I can't wait for that in the off season. That's going to be great. Can't wait to watch you guys go to battle. But that's it. I think that's the episode. That's just phenomenal. Also, shout out the NFL for flexing a good game. We have Dolphins and Chargers now Sunday night. I can't.
I mean, I'm gonna have a split window with one on the game and the other just on Emmanuel Acho's Twitter account.
That's fucking phenomenal.
He already tweeted out, by the way. He immediately tweeted out that he has never been more excited for a sporting event in his life than to watch the top 5 real quarterback play against the top 5 social media quarterback. So he's going to be in fine form that evening.
Oh my God.
I love it, man. Like I love it. He's committed to the bit for sure. And I have to appreciate that.
I love it. I'm going to be tapped in. Final thoughts before we get the hell out of here.
George Pickens, wide receiver 1.
I love it. Jacob?
That really was his final thoughts. I still believe biggest thing I would say to the masses that I still fully believe in Sky Moore, and you should go trade for Sky Moore.
Yeah, I've been actually getting him as throw-ins at this point, which I absolutely love. I got Sky Moore for Isaiah Pacheco in a third, and I was like, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, absolutely love it. Look, my final thoughts are generally always the same. Fantasy football is an absolutely fucking brutal game. When it comes to winning and losing, relish in your wins and learn from your losses. Don't sit on your hands either. Even if your league has a trade deadline, which it should, you should always be planning and getting ready for the next season, keeping track of values. Don't just sit on your hands. Stay in contact, stay in communication, and have something to look forward to for the next year. Remember that it is still November until tomorrow, and that you can go to Movember.com, go to Full Tilt Pod and donate. Mental health is very, very important, and having that awareness is clutch, especially this time of year. You live somewhere like I live in Winnipeg. We have huge rates of seasonal depression. It is crippling here when it comes to things like that. It's important to talk about. The stigma that men can't talk about what they're feeling has to stop. It's absolutely brutal. Remember that you can reach out. Well, I always say it's important to reach out to your loved ones, even if you're not sure that they need it. So you can do that. You can donate. You can not, but always be mindful. It's almost playoff time, and I can't fucking wait. Let's enjoy this crazy week of football. Remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose, and your best days, well, they're always spent tilting. Good night, everyone.
It was a pleasure.